Hello people of the internet, Megan here, and time for another Tea Time Tuesday. Today's tea is once again from Dryad's Tea. The link to their shop will be linked down below. Today I am going to be enjoying a cup of Brownie's brew. The nice little description reads, a black tea infused with anise, cinnamon, and hazelnut. Made from dreams and memories, this brew is a favorite of house sprites, often called brownies. It is suggested to take with milk and sweetener. I do not have milk, but I did sweeten mine a little bit. Oh, and the ingredients for this are black tea, cinnamon, anise, star anise, hazelnut, nut extract, corn flour, and, I'm gonna butcher this, calendula petals, mallow blossoms, natural flavors. This contains nuts, so if you have a nut allergy, I would pass on this. And now that I don't need to read anymore, I'm taking the glasses off because the reflection is annoying. So while I let my tea cool off a little bit, because I don't want to burn my mouth, that's never fun, when I opened this little bag up, I just instantly thought of like fall and like winter baking. Just between the cinnamon and the hazelnuts, very strong baking vibes, which is what I wanted. I feel in a very fall mood right now, probably because it's like dark, cloudy, and cool out, and the leaves are changing color because it's fall, and this tea delivered. Haven't taken a sip yet, but just based on the smell, it's delivered, and then some with that. Just when I was letting it seep, I just got super hyped to try it because it smells amazing. It smells like I just did some baking. Of course, now I want to go bake something. I'm probably going to go make some brownies after this because I don't feel like making something from scratch because I'm feeling kind of lazy. But now I want baked goods, and I have box brownie mix somewhere in the pantry. I think I do. I don't think I used it yet. Probably didn't use it yet. We'll find out after this, I guess. Probably should have said this in the beginning. Hi everyone, I'm Megan. This is Tea Time Tuesday, the little segment where once in a while I just sit down with a nice cup of tea, talk about the tea for a little bit, and then just ramble. And I'm already rambling, so guess we're off to a good start. And while I wait for my tea to cool off a bit more, I'm going to show off my new little mug. It's like a month's late birthday gift to myself, because I love mugs. I would love to collect a whole bunch of mugs. Maybe one day, when I have space for it, I will. And I saw this mug while I was browsing online, and I'm like, I need this mug. This is accurate. This is very accurate. And also semi-on topic for something I want to ramble about today. So it is fitting. So, I think it's cooled down enough for me to enjoy a nice little sip now. I'm still getting such, like, baked good vibes from this, and I am really excited to try. It holds very true with the taste test. Very baked good vibes. I'm sure I'd probably get even more of those vibes if I added milk to it, but like I stated earlier, I do not currently have any milk. I need to go get some, but I don't feel like going to get it just for this video. But of course, that's probably a mistake, especially if I end up making brownies later. I didn't think that through. Whatever, it is what it is. It just took a minute to reflect on some words I just said, going on about like a topic I want to ramble about. I feel that sounds really weird when I think it through. Like, typically rambles, when I think of rambles, I don't think of them having a set topic in mind, but at the same time it does make sense because when it comes to certain topics I can ramble on and on and on and on and on about, which my partner very much knows very well. He has put up with so many of my ramblings in our time together. And I, with him, we have some topics that we can just ramble and rant about for unknown amounts of time. For me, it's mostly books and TV shows, especially ones that I feel passionate about. Also, when it comes to some writing, which is something that I used to do a lot. I used to do it a lot. I've always loved books. I've always loved stories and storytelling for as long as I can remember. But it wasn't until I was like in 5th-ish grade when we had like kind of little creative writing assignments that I realized I can write my own stories. Like, that whole concept just blew 10, 11-year-old Megan's mind. Like, I can write my own stories? What? It never occurred to me before then, and just from that point on, I was hooked. There was actually one point in middle school, I think it was the 8th grade. It was the 8th grade. Like, I toyed around with the idea of writing stories before then, and this feels really weird for me to admit as an adult, which it shouldn't. It really shouldn't. But starting around that time, like 7th, 8th grade, it was probably close to 7th, I joined Gaia online and found the forums and joined many RP forums over the years. And around 8th grade, I wanted to write a story for one of my roleplay characters. So I took like my main like blueprint RP character and started writing stories about her. And I started physically writing it down. My friends, who I went to school with, found out about it. I had a decent group of friends, and they started to read it. It's one of my cringiest memories looking back and just remembering how bad that story was. I never finished. I barely scratched the surface of that story, which is probably for the best, because I can't imagine how much worse it could have gotten. The characters were horrible. They were very, like, two-dimensional and just cringy. Which, you know, I was like 14 at the time. Cringy is to be expected, especially since I was still like learning how to write. My friends loved it though. They were eating it up. We would all like poke fun at it. Some of them drew fan art of some of the characters, which I still have and still hold dear. As cringy as that start of a story was, I still hold that art very dear to me. And I don't know why I stopped writing it. I think I just hit a wall, got a bad case of writer's block, and just, I didn't know where I was going with the story. I was just writing. There was no outline, no forethought, no nothing. I was full on pantsing the story, guys. And it showed. It showed so much. And yeah, at some point, the journal I was writing it all down in got destroyed. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I remember most of what I was writing. I can rewrite it and make it better, because even then I'm like, this isn't as good as it could be. Never mind the fact that it was like a first draft, and first drafts are supposed to suck and all that. But I just never did, because looking back, even then, I was just like, that wasn't very good. And then I kind of stopped writing. I was still role-playing on Gaia. Was for years after the fact. And actually, through Gaia and role-playing, I met 2 people I consider 2 of my closest friends. I have only a handful of people I consider my closest friends, and they are half of them. And we're still friends today, which is awesome. So something came of my very, very cringy early writing. Like, relatively recently, like within the past year, I went back to look at some of the things we wrote when I was meeting them on Gaia. And I'm not a great writer now, but holy hell have I improved since then. Like, I think I was a sophomore in high school, so like 16 when I met the first one of them. And then it was a year or so after where I met the second one. And the 3 of us were like mutual friends. Oh, holy crap, we've been friends over 10 years. Like, in the back of my head I knew that, but just actually actively thinking it, holy hell, that was a long time ago. But yeah, as bad of a writer as I still may be, I have improved greatly since then, which at the end of the day is all we can ever hope for, is just constant improvement of a skill. But the last couple of years, I have not been writing a whole lot. Just, the creative juices just weren't flowing. And writing is hard even at the best of times. Like, I love thinking up story ideas. I have so many, like, vague, half-formed ideas swimming in the back of my head. Characters that I want to use, and just coming up with, like, an actual plot for them like a full-fledged story with a beginning, middle, and end, is hard. It's very hard. I used to participate in NaNoWriMo. Haven't the last few years. Been considering it the last couple of years. But whenever it comes down to it, in around November 1st, I'm just like, yeah, I got nothing. I got nothing. And I know how my brain works. Where if I start to fall behind, I'll get discouraged. And if I get discouraged, I'm going to get stressed. And if I get overly stressed, I'm just going to give up because I don't want to feel overly stressed, especially over something voluntary. I have ideas. I have awesome characters with cool backstories and stories that I want to tell and get out there and just, I want to make them happen. But so many of them are like half-baked, like plot lines, and I'm just like, where do I go from there? How do I tie this all together? And I know I could probably figure this out by actually writing and just forcing myself to sit down and write it out. But it's hard. It is just so hard. Especially since most of what I've always written has been like some kind of fantasy based, whether it be more like high fantasy or more like urban fantasy. There's always been some sort of fantasy elements to every part of my stories because I like fantasy. It's what I primarily read. It's what brings me joy. And just, I don't know, just something about fantasy is just so great. It's a fantastic escape. But yeah, especially when it comes to like fantasy and you get like magic involved, trying to think of like magic systems, and when it comes to like high fantasy, it's like, it's cool. I love being able to create a world from the ground up, but it's also difficult when you try and like think, okay, even even like the little things that don't make their way into the story, but as the writer, I feel I have to know just so I know how this world works. Like, okay, what's the currency system? What's the history between these two countries? And just sometimes I find I just get so hyper focused on trying to figure out how something in my worlds work that I just totally get distracted from the actual story part of the storytelling, which is both a blessing and a curse. Just when I'm reading stuff, I love knowing like background and just like little details, like how does this work? Why is this how it is? What happens after? What happens after the end? Just all these questions that I know I'll never get the answers for as the reader, but I can't help but wonder. I feel I also get like that when I'm writing, like the stuff that the reader will never see or know about or hear. I can't help but wonder about because I feel in some way it can affect how the world runs and therefore how I should approach it as the writer and how my characters will approach it as people who live in the world. And then I just fall down a rabbit hole and stuff never gets done in the actual story. Just, I think that's probably one of my biggest weaknesses as a writer, is I focus on all these little things instead of like the actual writing, and then the writing never gets done. And it's annoying because it's just this endless loop in my head. I think that's part of the reason why I loved role-playing on Gaia so much, is that I didn't have to worry too much and just some things would just form as I was role-playing with my friends. Like sometimes one of their characters would say something that would just make something in my head click, and parts of my character's backstory that I hadn't thought of fall into place. And it was always just such a satisfying feeling. Feeling like, okay, cool, I got this extra piece of my character worked out. And when I'm solo writing, I don't really get that much, which is kind of sad. I don't know, I've just been thinking about that a lot lately because I have been wanting to sit down to write again. I miss writing. I love writing. And honestly, it is one of my goals in life to have something published, whether it be like traditionally published or indie published or self-published. Just, I would love to get one story out there. Especially, there are so many characters that I have come up with that have potential, and just I love them so much that I'd feel guilty not telling their story, if that makes sense. Like, some of these characters have existed for years, and just I've grown so attached to them that I don't want to let them go, and I don't want to just let them fade, because I put so much time thinking of them and just building them up, and I want to go somewhere with them. Even like some more recent characters that have come up in here, I would love to get their stories out, because out of all of them, they are actually probably some of the most developed, even though they are so much newer. And I feel like I'm being so vague when talking about these characters, but I don't want to say too much out loud, because things change. Their stories might change, and I don't know, vocalizing too much about them right now feels like I'd be setting things in stone in a way, and I don't want to do that yet. At least until I get a first draft together, which, knowing me, is gonna take who knows how long. Something about writing just brings me such joy, like just such undescribable joy. And that is something that I just want to do more of. Like I said, it's been a while since I've actually written anything, let alone shared anything. And just the joy that I come up with when something just clicks in my head about these characters. Like some little bit of their backstory that just becomes clearer to me while I'm just doing normal everyday tasks. Like while I'm at work especially, I think about my characters a lot. And I've probably had some of my best breakthroughs with thinking of like background and backstory while at work, spacing out while I'm working. Like as I'm hanging tags, doing my price changes, or hanging my sale stuff, just, thinking like, okay, what if this happened? And how would so and so react? And just how so much stuff has fallen into place while I'm at work is entertaining as hell to me. Me just being at work, going off into my own little like fancy world in my head, and just coming up with all these ideas. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with half this talk right now. And slightly unrelated, I've been wanting to get back into cosplay the last like year or so. I actually had gotten Anime Boston this past year and cosplayed. I, on TikTok, stumbled across people cosplaying and playing out their OCs, their original characters, and that's made me want to cosplay as my own OCs and just have actually some fun with it. I don't know. I even started like looking up like things that they would wear and trying to think more like, okay, what would they wear for this? And just wanting to put together costumes for my OCs and do like silly little sketches with them on TikTok. Maybe later this year I'll get to it, but I just think that'd be fun. Maybe help me sort some things out and like figure some things out where their stories are concerned, and just, I don't know, it just sounds like it'd be fun. A fun little exercise. And ever since I started considering that idea, I keep coming across audios that would work so well for them, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah, and just maybe that will help get some creative juices flowing and help me get back into my writing and making things work. And yeah, so my tea is gone. It is down to the dregs. I actually finished that a lot faster than I thought I would. I guess I just got so into my ramblings that I didn't realize how fast I was drinking that. Or at least it felt like it was fast. I don't know. I thought the last Tea Time Tuesday video went by really fast, and I ended up having like a half hour's worth of raw footage to edit. So, kind of hoping that's not this case, but knowing me and how much I can just talk and ramble, it's probably about the same. But it is what it is. Yeah, it's nice having something to talk about. So yeah, that's really it for this Tea Time Tuesday. For any of my writers, past, present, or possibly future, who might be watching, did any of this resonate with you? Do you have also similar problems when it comes to writing? Just getting stuck? Being unable to push forward? How do you handle writer's block, which is the bane of my existence? Oh my god. Do you find yourself getting trapped and focusing on the stupid little details like me, or do you not relate to that at all? Let me know. Let's get a discussion going. And yeah, for my fellow tea lovers out there, do you have any tea recommendations for me? I am open to trying pretty much anything. I'm not particularly picky about what kind of tea I drink, and I'm pretty much open to almost anything. And despite the fact that I have an obscene amount of tea downstairs I have to go through first, and much to my partner's dismay, I am always looking for tea recommendations to try. And yeah, that's it for this video, and I hope to see you guys next time.